Hello, my crafty friends. Well, today I have a fun little background technique I want to share with you. I am going to show you how to make your own pattern paper with your stamp sets. Hi, it's Lynn Dunn from Stamptastic Designs. Thanks so much for joining me today. In this episode of Stamptastic TV, I have 5 different card ideas to share with you that were created by stamping my own little background. So I'm going to share just a couple of tips with you on how to stamp your background or stamp your own pattern paper. And then I will share the measurements that I used to cut up my pattern paper to create these 5 cards. For the latest card making ideas, be sure to subscribe to my channel and click on that little bell so you will be notified each time I upload a new video. Alright, so let's talk about how to create your own pattern paper. So the first thing that you need to decide is what stamp set you are going to use. So for the cards that I'm sharing with you today, I decided to use the Well Dressed stamp set from Stampin' Up. So this is one of the new celebration items. This is one of the second release celebration items that just came out. So I thought we would do a couple masculine themed cards today. Okay, so the second thing you need to decide is what ink colors you're going to use. So I decided to go with the ink colors that were in the Country Club Designer Series paper pack. So you can see the colors are featured here. I also decided to add some Cajun Craze just to kind of break it up a little bit. But you can use whatever colors that you have on hand to create your backgrounds. For a complete list of supplies and all of the step-by-step instructions for creating these cards, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. All right, so let's dive in. So to create the cards that I'm featuring here today, I actually started with a 5 1/4 by 8 1/2 inch piece of white cardstock, but any size cardstock piece will work. So I'm going to be randomly stamping images across this piece of paper until I achieve the desired look. So I'm going to start with some crushed Curie ink. So I'm going to start out by just randomly stamping one of my larger designs from the stamp set just across this cardstock piece. Now you don't have to be very particular about it. All right, next I'm going to use some Night of Navy, and I'm going to grab another one of the larger images. And next I'm going to use some basic gray. And notice how I am stamping with all of the larger images first. All right, next we'll add some garden green. So now I'm going to move into using some of the smaller images to just kind of fill in the spaces on the cardstock. All right, and the last color I'm going to use is Cajun Craze, and I'm going to use my smallest stamp to fill in the rest of this cardstock piece. So this just adds some, really nice contrast and color to my pattern paper. Okay, so there you go. See, that wasn't so hard. So again, you can really use any stamp set that you have. And my recommendations are to really start with the larger images first and then slowly move to adding the smaller images to just kind of fill in the spots on your pattern paper. So it turns out pretty cool. All right, so now I think we are ready to cut this up and start making some cards. All right, so once you have all of your images stamped, then you can go ahead and cut up the paper any way you desire. So I decided to cut mine up into a variety of different shapes. It's kind of like a little one-sheet wonder using that 5 1/4 by 8 1/2 inch piece of paper. So my first piece here is 1 1/2 by 5 1/4. And the same thing with the second piece, the exact same measurement. Then my third piece here is 2 by 5 1/4 inches. Then this piece up here is 3 1/2 by 2 5/8 inches. And then these two pieces down here measure 1 3/4 by 2 5/8 inches. So based on the way I cut up my paper, I am able to make 5 different cards. Now, again, you can cut your paper any way you want, and you may even be able to get more than 5 cards. Okay, so before I show you how to put the cards together, I'm just going to tell you a little bit about the supplies I used. So for each of my cards, I am using black cardstock for the base of the card. And then I cut a 5 1/4 by 4 inch piece of white cardstock, and I just embossed it with the Argyle embossing folder. You can use any embossing folder that you have on hand. And then I also cut some garden green cardstock to use as some matting behind my pattern paper pieces. And then the last thing I did is I just did some embossing. So I heat embossed some different sentiments on black cardstock, and then I just used white embossing powder to create these different sentiments, which I will use to decorate the cards. All right, so let me show you the first card. Now these first two cards are going to feature the 1 1/2 by 5 1/4 inch pieces, and so I'm just going to adhere one of them to the left side of the card front, and then the other one I'm going to adhere it to the right side. So I'm just going to mix it up just a little bit, and then I'm just going to trim them out with a little 1/2 inch by 5 1/4 inch piece of garden green cardstock, and I'm going to do that on both of them. And then I'm simply going to add my little sentiments. So for this one, we'll just kind of put it down towards the bottom, and I'm going to use the same sentiment, except for on this one we'll just kind of put it in the middle. So you can just change up your card design just a little bit just by how you adhere your sentiment. So for this third card design, I'm going to be using the 2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of the pattern paper that I created, and I simply cut a 2 1/2 by 5 1/4 inch piece of garden green cardstock just to kind of mat out the image. So it just kind of pulls out that green that's in the pattern that I stamped. And then I'm simply going to adhere this right down the center of the card front. And then for the finishing touch, we're just going to add the little sentiment, and you can add it in the center, you can add it off to the side, wherever you want to place it. I'm just going to put mine right in the center. And that's it. Another quick and simple idea. All right, this next card design features the 3 1/2 by 2 5/8 inch piece of cardstock. So for this one, I cut another piece of that garden green cardstock, and the garden green cardstock is 3 3/4 inches by 2 7/8 inches. So it's just cut about 1/4 inch larger than the pattern paper that I created. So I'm just going to mat that out, and that's going to go right on the center of the card. So I'm just adding a few dimensionals just to pop it up. And for this one, I decided to just change out the sentiment. So I just did a little thanks, and that's just going to go right in the center of the card. And there you go. That's it. There is card number 4. Okay, and this last card design, I am just simply using the 2 pieces that I cut at 1 3/4 by 2 5 1/8 inches. So I'm going to mount both of these to some garden green cardstock, and so the garden green cardstock is just 1/4 inch larger, so it's 2 by 2 7/8. So I'm just going to adhere one piece to each of these garden green cardstock pieces. All right, so now that I have my pattern paper all matted out, I added some dimensionals on the back, and I'm simply going to add these pieces right in the center of the card. And then for the finishing touch on this card, I just stamped a little congrats sentiment and put it right across the center of the card. And that's it. Pretty simple, right? So there you go. Now you have several different card ideas that you can get busy creating with your own stamp set and ink colors. Just get creative with it. And if you enjoyed this video, feel free to download the printable tutorial. You can find the link in the description below this video. Thanks so much for joining me today. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know by liking it and sharing it with your friends. And leave me a comment below to let me know what you enjoyed most about the video and the cards shared here today. Have a fun and creative day, my friends. Take care.